looking back on it, if I could give myself advice, is a, rather popular cliche question, but like I realized it recently. Because when you're in it, you're like, should I continue? Should I not continue? Like, I'm not sure. I have a good job. It's paying good. Society says it's good. My parents are happy. But back then I knew I just can't be the best accountant at this company. Not even close to it. I don't want to. I just have no interest. So that's my trigger going forward. If I don't feel like I can be the best or near the top, which makes things easier, opens doors, then I'm on the wrong path. I shouldn't be there. And so if I realized that back then, I would have maybe quit myself or went on a different job.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Listen, I got a man here in the lab with me that is a true practitioner. As you guys know, in Experiment Nation, we experiment, fail, learn, and repeat. And we learn from those who are walking the walk, not just talking the talk. But speaking of talking the talk, you can also talk the talk and write, because you have now your second book that's coming out, Profitable Properties, the Airbnb Insider Secrets. And if you guys know this gentleman that I'm about to introduce, he's also the author of and the founder of the brand Optimize Your Airbnb, but he's also known as the Optimize My Airbnb on social as well. So what I love about this gentleman is that he not only has played around on the platform, the Airbnb, one of the biggest OTAs in the world, but he's also worked there, and he actually has traveled a lot overseas and been a guest at, 2,000 plus properties that you've stayed at, because he life hacks. He reminds me a little bit of Tim Ferriss. I told him that online, but it's not Tim. It's actually yours truly, Daniel Rusteen. Welcome to the lab, brother. What's going on, man?
Thanks for the nice introduction. 2,000 nights as a guest, 6 continents, over 100 cities for at least a week, maybe 100 more where I went to visit. But yeah, I permanently live in Airbnbs for the last 7 years.
That is bananas. That gives you a whole, like we were talking about this just now offline, like that gives you a whole like realm of being a guest, hosting as an owner, as an operator. You also have a property management company as well. Like, golly, how'd you get started, man? Like, what's the story? Because we were just talking about, we went back a few years, but how'd you get into the space, man?
I took you back to 2018 offline. I'm going to take you and your audience back now to 2011, which I don't usually go back that far.
Okay.
But that's my first little dip in real estate. And very, very briefly, I set up a real estate company with my brother. I tried to buy a long-term rental in Las Vegas, Nevada, the east side of UNLV. I did my research. I flew out there. I put my deposit in that I lost. The bank said, nope, we don't think you're good enough, which was and is really shitty because I know I was good enough. I'm a savvy guy. So that was my first dip into it. I didn't go back into real estate until 2021 is when I tried to buy again in 2021. So now I am the owner of a rental in Colombia called Belmonte Penthouse. It's a 4-bedroom down there, daily rental. But I worked at Airbnb in 2013 and I heard about them in 2012 in the kitchen in my San Francisco 4-bedroom flat. My roommate came in. I'm making a double-decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I was unemployed at the time by choice. I quit my last job as a public accountant. And I was looking for other places, startup scene in San Francisco. And he says, yeah, this company called Air Bed and Breakfast. And I was like, no, I haven't heard of it. Tell me about it. And he told me about it as a guest. You go and you travel, you sleep in someone's couch or someone's house or someone's bedroom. And I was like, for me, it clicked as a guest. I was like, that's really cool. I'm gonna look into them. And I interviewed with them. I got an interview, which was nice, in January 2013. They said, thanks for coming in, but no thanks. And I was like, damn, but that's all right. I know I'm going to work here. I want to work here. So I stayed in touch. 3 or 4 months later, a different job in the same department opened up. I interviewed 18 times and I got it.
Well, hold on. 18 times was the process, or that was just like, nope. And then you kept coming back.
No, it was a no. And then I came back 3 or 4 months later and interviewed for a different job, 18 different interviews on various days. I might have had 2 or 3 interviews on the same day.
Is that what they were doing?
It was pretty intense. And mind you, I wasn't going in as a CFO.
Right.
You know, I was a CPA. So I was going into accounting department, but I wasn't anything near the CFO. It also wasn't an entry level position. It was somewhere in between. But I was like, whoa, I was like, are you guys not sure about me? Or like, is this a normal process? Because they invited me to a happy hour as well. I was like, oh, so you want to make sure I'm normal too? I'm like, I know I'm not normal. So I just had to dip in and dip out real quick. No red flags rose, and they're like, okay, you're hired.
What? I had no idea companies are doing that. Like, I've heard of like 5, 6, 7, like I think I might have done it. What company was it? Yeah, like 5 stages, but like 18, man. Like
it was probably 4 or 5 different days plus the happy hour, and each day I had a few. Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll do that. I have an interview where they're like, okay, nice speaking to the developer. Now you get to speak to this guy, like all day interview. Like, damn, man. So you really earn your stripes, like, to say the least. And so, so what were you doing out there? General ledger? What
was my title? You could go to LinkedIn to find that.
Yeah, no, I think I saw in there.
I forget, to be honest, my title. Yeah.
Yeah, no, where it's on there. What it says here is general ledger accountant, local operations, special projects.
Those are 2 different departments. In finance, you have there's 3 sections of finance. You have tax, you have like financial accounting analysis, and then you have regular accounting. So I was regular accounting. So yes, doing reconciling the billions of dollars of cash they had coming in and out every month in different currencies with fees, and that was actually a nightmare. Honestly, it probably still is. That was like a giant issue when I was there, reconciling all the billions of cash in 56 different currencies with exchange rates. They get money today, they pay it out later, and then the guest may extend or cancel. And there was so much of this. There was at the time there was like I forget what it was at, but it was a very large number that went unaccounted for. We're not sure where this is at. We have no idea. We're looking into it, but we don't know where it's at.
Wait, that's crazy. So how did these, I worked at a bank on the treasury department, but like sometimes you kind of forget how big this is. What is there like I forget what it's called. There's like a bank that's like receiving, then there's the bank that's sending. Do you just have like a bunch of different banks associated with Airbnb for accounts like globally? Like how does that work? I'm just curious. I forget how it works, the treasury thing.
You might be thinking of
remittance.
There was like processors.
Mm-hmm.
So we have bank accounts, but then we have processors. So in Brazil has different processors than Japan, than USA. And so the processors would then take their little cut, but then there would also be timing differences. When did you charge? And what was it? The spot rate is real time. So when did you actually take that money and when did you give it to us? There's another difference between those 2 rates. So it was a mind fuck, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Damn. So you did that, and then at the time in San Francisco, you're still with your buddies and renting, your house hacking, or what are you doing?
No, I'm renting normal with 3 other buddies, but I did become a host at the time. But I had to convince them. Remember, 2013, people in San Francisco, Uber drivers in San Francisco were like, I don't know who Airbnb is. It's a $10 billion company at the time, so it wasn't very well known. It was interesting that these companies do these things called unaided awareness. So who knows Airbnb? If you see the McDonald's logo, their unaided awareness, all you see is the logo and you're like, McDonald's. It's like 95%. Airbnb is like 6%. but they were still like a 15, 20, but whatever $billion company.
This is then?
This was then.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6%. Nobody knew about them.
That's crazy. No. Cause what we were saying is I asked you if you were like a house hacking and all, but you're living with your roommates, right? But there was something that you were going to add. I don't know if you're going to add something. You started hosting.
Yeah, I had to convince them to let we only had a couch. That was what we were going to do. That was my idea. So I got the listing up, but they weren't sold on it. I was like, we'll get good money. We'll pay for all of our utilities. We'll probably add some extra for some consumables, paper towels. Maybe we'll have some extra for some beer. I'm 24 at the time, something like that, 26. They're like, nah, we don't really want to do that. And so I listed it and I got this gorgeous looking foreign girl to request. And I said, oh guys, I'm so sorry. I accidentally listed it and we have an inquiry. I made sure to zoom up on that picture. This girl's trying to request, should I deny it and they're like, yeah, let's give it a try. All three of them unanimously. So she canceled. She never came, but that was the first. And then we started hosting since then, and we made great money. We paid for all of our utilities. We paid for the cleaners. We paid for consumables. We paid for like weekly house dinners.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And because at the time too, it was like, was it called Couchsurfing or?
Yep.
I feel like
it's still around.
Yeah. Or I think there was even another company. It was called Couchsurfing or something like that. But that was the concept. It wasn't like, it was like by the room. It wasn't even so much by the entire spot. Right.
Yeah.
And
so
go ahead.
Yeah. We were doing Couchsurfing, except charging $100 a night.
That's wild. And the whole angle, just so we understand, is that you were qualified because you worked at Airbnb and you told your buddies, hey, I work there and I know that this business is a proof of concept. Like, what was how did you kind of like introduce it? Is it because you worked there that you were qualified to introduce it, or no?
I think because I worked there, I was qualified to introduce it. I had it on my account, but I was more so just interested in doing this. I mean, for me, it made a lot of sense. We get to meet cool people. Mm-hmm. We get good money. Like, what else do you need? And so I just wanted to do it just because I thought it was cool. But me working there, Airbnb at that time really wanted their employees to host. This was made known. Like, if you can host, you should be hosting. And so that also was like, all right, they want us to host. I want to host. We can host. So that was, and I attacked from different angles. We can meet different people. The things I already said, we can make good money. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out, like, we'll get our house cleaned, by the way. What if we add a little extra and get the whole house cleaned, 2 times a week? So, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out the way. And then the attractive girl was the one to break the seal.
That's
because this went on for 2 or 3 months before they said, okay, let's try it out.
Wow. Interesting. So then what was the evolution of that? Because you worked there for how long?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So did you live at the same place for the next 3 years, or was it kind of like, few people fell off, like one person left, room got open? Like, I'm just curious. Yeah,
that did happen. We had some roommate cycle, but not too often. I found a killer spot when I first went up to San Francisco, a killer location, rooftop, cheap. And so, the roommates didn't really move out that much, but we did have some turnover. I lived there for 6 years that I was in San Francisco, and we kept doing it for a long time, maybe 2 or 3 years, even after I was at Airbnb, I think.
Interesting. So then how did you get into the whole thing? I didn't know, by the way. So what happened at Airbnb when the door closed, and what was there, you said something about getting fired. I didn't even know that. Is that what happened, or? Yeah,
that's what happened. So I was a CPA, an accountant, right? And so I was jumping from company to company, trying to find my spot. And so I was finally at a company where I loved the company, what they were doing. I loved my team, but I was still an accountant, and I just didn't like that. Looking back on it, if I could give myself advice, is a rather popular cliche question, but like, I realized it recently. Because when you're in it, you're like, should I continue? Should I not continue? Like, I'm not sure. I have a good job. It's paying good. Society says it's good. My parents are happy. But back then I knew I just can't be the best accountant at this company. Not even close to it. I don't want to. I just have no interest. So that's my trigger going forward. If I don't feel like I can be the best or near the top, which makes things easier, opens doors, then I'm on the wrong path. I shouldn't be there. And so if I realized that back then, I would have maybe quit myself or went on a different job. But basically I was just, I wasn't like a bad accountant, but I wasn't a great accountant either. This was a very high level team. These were very high level accountants who seemed to actually enjoy their job. In fact, I went in one day early, 7:45, because I was going on vacation that weekend. And to my horror, I arrived to like 6-8 people already in their desks working and seemed to be working for a long time. Like they didn't just arrive, taking out their jacket. They're like they're focused, coffee in front of them. And I was like, hey, when did you arrive? And they're like 6:30. I was like, just today, every day. So that for me was like where I kind of knew like, oh shoot, I might be imagine me coming in like every day at 9 a.m. strolling in at 9 a.m. I stayed till 6, 7, 8 p.m. sometimes, but I came in at 9 because I was like, I'm chilling in the morning. I'm making myself some breakfast. I had a rooftop garden. I'm going to read a little bit. And these people are getting in at the CFO or someone high up got in at like 6. And so I think that kind of set the tone. And I knew that, but he also made it very clear, like, don't come in at 6. I'm just doing this. I like to do this, but, if that's happening, you want to get on its good side, you got to show up pretty early too. So,
damn, that I love. By the way, dude, I love that quote that you just said. Like,
yeah,
if you like this recent,
if you can't be the best, then you're on the wrong path. Because being the best opens up a lot of doors. It makes life easier and fun. If you're not the best, you're what I was, which was like going into work, kind of hating it. Not getting opportunities, not interested in getting opportunities. It's kind of this weird zone. So you're just kind of like being a zombie living through life, even though you might have, I think this happens to a lot of people in a lot of professions. Lawyers, they have $150,000 of debt. They probably don't love their job. Just the odds are, some of them do, but the odds are a lot of them probably realize I don't like being a lawyer, but I'm stuck here as well. Luckily, I wasn't stuck. I didn't have any debt to an extent where I felt like I had to work. So that freed me up to do what I did next. Well, actually, Airbnb hired me back. They hired me back in that local operations department, which was more of like marketing. And I just blew that out of the water. I was the highest in like getting the number of hosts, how many hosts brought in, how much money they brought into the company, their conversion rate.
Wait, hold on. Why do you think that was? Like, every Friday we would have a meeting at Airbnb, and this buddy of mine there, he was in part of this program, and he said, we're going to give you $500, $500 for you and $500 for a host if you refer them. And they were just talking about the local market. And so I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money, and I started doing these like marketing campaigns. It just clicked for me. I was like, this makes sense. I'm going to do this. That's a lot of money. So I started doing that and I got pretty good at it. And also my dirty little secret, I have never revealed this. This is the first time on your podcast. Love it.
One of my strategies, my dirty little tricks, was I got in touch with property managers in San Francisco. And I was like, hey, I got $500 for you. Any new hosts that you're going to sign up? You want $500 for those that you're going to do anyways? And obviously they're like, yeah, I want $500. So at the end of the day, when I actually walked out the doors, which was super liberating for some reason, I walked out, I was fired, but I was like, wow, I feel so good. I walked out with $15,000 in Airbnb credit because of these referrals.
Wow. That's so you're kind of like arbitraging it in a way. Like you're like, you would still get them the 500, but then you would get credit as well if you got sold the 500 to another host. Is that how it works?
No, it was just as long as the host signed up. I believe it was signed up. It may have been the first reservation. They get $500 and I get $500 directly in my Airbnb account, paid out to my bank account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there was a two-way thing. So you gave the incentive to, wow, that's sick.
Yeah. And
So
I was
so interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was number one in the company. This accountant, I was still working there at the time. This accountant, I had 36 referrals in that time period. 30 of them counted. That's why I got 15,000. But the next highest was like 11. And we had a marketing department. And so, this is why I got hired back, because people were like, well, this guy just blew it out of the water. What's going on? And so I got hired back to do this. And I did this for a period of 6 months or 9 months. This was when Airbnb was people were very anti-Airbnb, especially in San Francisco, gentrification, raising the rents, this and that. So that program, eventually they were like, we gotta shelf this, even though it's working very well. And then I started working for an Airbnb property management company, which is when I decided to ditch CPA life and go for something totally different, which was tremendously scary and took a hit to my salary, upwards of, 80%.
Damn. What did you see a bigger play down the road, or at that point you're just?
I started as a public accountant, public auditor, and I didn't like that job. So I switched. So we have those three prongs, right? The company, the team, and accounting. So I was like, all right, what if I change the company to a private company? And that's doing something kind of cool. So I did that. And I was like, all right, the company's cool, I guess, but I don't really love the team and I'm still an accountant. So then I went to Airbnb. All right, team is great. Company's great. Couldn't get better. But I still am an accountant. So I just had to make the hard decision. Like, I can't do accounting anymore. It's just not my thing. So I had the opportunity where I could work for as like it was a small team. I grew it out and did very well in that company as well. And so I took that. That was the kind of the decision. Look, I'm not an accountant anymore. I'm just not good at it. I'm not interested in doing it. I have to do something else. This opportunity is in front of me. It's still, so the decision was stay with Airbnb somewhat and do property management, or stay with CPA and go for some company and easily get hired because they're super in demand. Every company on the planet needs a CPA. So there was job security there, but I decided, all right, I'm going to stick with Airbnb. And that's what, the rest is my history.
I like the way you kind of break things down, and you're like, there's the company, there's a team, then I'm an accountant, or there's I think I heard you mention this in the beginning as well, how, there's the taxes, there's finances, and then there's different types of accounting. You seem to be kind of always thinking of in a lot of different lens. What do you think is required? You mentioned this about getting stuck. What do you think is required to getting unstuck? Is it burning a bridge? Is it, analyzing from, bird's eye view? Like what do you think can help someone who's listening get unstuck, or how should they be thinking about getting unstuck?
When you say unstuck, I'm thinking of my time as an accountant, whether it was at Airbnb or not, just feelings. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who feel that. You talked
definitely
about the lawyer, you talked about that. So like, I'm defining just that. Like, what do you, I guess you can only speak for yourself, but if you can think about it for a second, I think you touched on it a little bit. Like what I think the quote you said before is what I'm going to walk away with, but I don't know if there's any other insight you want to mention. Like, how do you get unstuck, or how do you begin the process of getting unstuck? Is it you getting out of your own way? Do you need to make a decision? Like, do you need to analyze? Like, what is it that you think is the thing? It's a tough question, but I'm just curious.
It's a tough question and a tough answer. So I got fired because I didn't have the balls to quit. I knew, I was there. I was like, I don't like this, if I could have thought about it in an analytical way and sat down and been like, okay, let me think about my future. What should I do? The clear answer would be either you have to become a good accountant, and there's a way to do that. You can do that if you wanted to. I didn't want to do that. Or you have to do you have to do something different, whether that's move to tax or the financial analytics side, whether that's move to business development, which I tried to do. But it's a hard decision because it's like you're already a CPA, you're already in accounting at Airbnb.
You think it's like the sunk cost bias at that point, where people are like, I've already gone so far that I'm gonna get in my own way and not try to.
I don't think so. I think what it is it's scary. What am I? This path is known. I don't like it, but it's known. If I don't do this path, well, that's all unknown. In fact, one of the scariest times of my life, you just flashed me back to 8th grade. I'm in 8th grade and I'm like the popular kid. It was a class of 28. So, it didn't take much to be a popular kid. I was in fact kind of shy, but I played basketball and I was like tall for that time. So I was the popular kid. And I remember thinking like, I knew me. I was like, I'm kind of shy though. And now I have to go to college, high school. I was like, well, this was actually quite frightening for me. I was like, well, what's going to happen? Like, I'm so scared. I don't know what's in the future, but it was a decision I had to make. I had to go to high school. And sure enough, actually, my high school wasn't like amazing. I went to an all guy high school and I was shy. And so shy for an adolescence and doing that wasn't a great combination. So I had a rather boring and plain high school experience. So it didn't work out all that good. I mean, it wasn't terrible either, but that's the decision that you have to make. If you're stuck, it's going to be a very difficult decision, no matter which way you go. It might be less if you decide to just slightly veer into a tax or something, but it's tough. Oh, you said a sunk cost. Yeah, I think a lot of it actually, it might not be that. I think what it might be is I have a family, I have a mortgage, I have $100,000 of college debt. So I would love to quit, but I can't. My kid and wife will starve. My kid will starve. My wife will divorce me. My bank will take my house. So it's like, these are like really big decisions that someone's making, and it makes that decision even more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, this is actually a pretty good segue because I know from the sounds of it, sounds like you live a lean lifestyle. And I feel like what you talked about is it's the society's kind of way of like handcuffing you. And I think, that's a problem with credit cards. And when you own a home and it's a liability and not an asset, right? Which again, we talk about Airbnb can be and turn your home into an asset. I think to your point is it's like there's the unknown and then there's the liabilities that you owe. And so I'm wondering if it's like, because it starts from the get-go, right? Like, and I have a whole, like, I went to college, right? And luckily I don't have debt, but I feel like it's right from the jump, right? I think it's like you get out of school and you have debt. So you already owe someone something. And then it's like, sometimes people go crazy with weddings. They're getting into a relationship and they have debt, right? And it's like, I feel like that to your point, if we didn't have those things, I feel like you could have some peace of mind, right? And I don't know if you agree to that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's I feel like, yeah, I've always been I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. No, they're not collecting. Can you rephrase what you just said?
It was around debt, right? I feel like a lot of what you're saying as I'm kind of like thinking about what you said, right? It's like, what I'm going to do. Like, I have a car, I have my loans, I have my credit card payment. I feel like that's the biggest block where we're already in this line of like, I need to fill this void. So I don't know. Again, I'm just opening up the conversation. I'm like, I don't know if you agree that if we remove those things, it would allow people to get unstuck. If that's the real thing that's making people stuck, is it the debt thing? And then I was going to transfer into kind of like what you've done, because I do believe you're a life hacker. But I want to just touch on that for a second. Do you agree that is that, or do you think it's bigger than just the finance?
It might be that. I am, there's few things in life that I'm very confident about. And when I talk about them, it probably sounds like I'm bragging, but there's just a few spots in life that I'm confident about. One of them is money management and finance. I've always been good at it ever since, even when I was broke, I was the richest broke person, in college, when we were going to go to Subway for a $5 footlong. It was like, yeah, that's chump change for me. But, so I've always been a saver, and I opened bank accounts when I was in middle school and I put my money in certificates of deposit. This was just a natural thing because we all know that college school in America doesn't teach you anything to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so and because of that, I don't have debt as well. For me, it's an automatic. You have a credit card, you pay it off every month. I bought my Airbnb in Medellin in cash. Part of that is because the financial system isn't built out there. But at the same time, I was totally comfortable with that because that, even though I'm not leveraging, and it lowers my risk. And so because it lowers my risk, and I'll circle all this back in, but I feel more free. I don't have a lot of connections keeping me to one spot, which means I can life hack. I can leverage whatever's the best in whatever areas. And so going back to that, just on like money tips, limiting the debt for me is essential. It wouldn't. So, and in terms of real estate, I know a lot of the experts out there, they're going for really large portfolios. They want to leverage. They want to put down the minimum 5%. They want other people's money. That sounds to me incredibly intimidating and difficult and risky and super risky. That's not what I teach. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's like my big difference. If you want to do that, I'm not your guy because you have other problems, other things you have to think about. I want to pick and choose very few deals. I'll sit back. I won't buy real estate. When I'm buying real estate? Right now, when it's on sale. When a lot of Instagram influencers came out, made some bad purchases in some bad markets, they didn't buy profitable properties. And now, people are scared and whatnot. That's when I'll buy. I'll sit on my money for years. The last stock I bought was Netflix. The thing went into the tank because they had one woke movie or something. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with Netflix. I bought it at 200 and now it's 350.
You talked about you're not it sounds like you
don't have to have 100 properties to be a successful short-term rental host. And that's my mantra. I'm just picking and choosing. I'm doing more with less. I did pay cash, but if I paid typical 20% down loan, my cash on cash return would be 125%, which blows out of the water, but maybe some of your listeners don't. Typical cash on cash basis. Okay. So here's the difference. A lot of the experts who want big portfolios, tens of millions of dollars, they have a minimum. We need a cash on cash return of 25%. I'm looking at the maximum. What's the maximum I can do? That will take longer for me to get, but I think it's worth it because now I have one property producing income of 5 properties that someone else might get. And that's because I was conscious. I waited and I was conscious about what market am I going to? What micro neighborhood am I going to? What size of home am I going to? I talk about all this in the part 2 of the book, Vacation Rental Market Analysis, which is in 2023 and beyond. Airbnb short-term rentals start when you buy the property. Whereas in the past, you kind of Airbnb what you had.
Experiment Nation, I have a special gift for you. If you're in the Airbnb space, or if you're thinking of getting into the Airbnb space, you're an operator with multiple units, your first unit, your 100th unit, just about to get into Airbnb, you are going to want to get this blueprint that I put together for you. Now, I want to give context of how this was put together because sometimes people assemble these ideas and top 10 lists, top 5, top this, and it doesn't have any true valued, vetted content. What I've done is I've surrounded myself by the best top short-term rental Airbnb operators in the world. I co-authored a best-selling book with them called Hospitable Host. I've had them on my platform and interviewed them to get the questions that you guys want to learn the most from into the episode, the show, The Real Estate Experiment, as you know. And I've also paid tens and thousands of dollars to be sitting in the room to get these notable insights that we implement ourselves as short-term rental operators. I'm a short-term rental specialist. I'm licensed to do it in the respective markets. You know, we build ours in Georgia. We have a management company ourselves. We're Airbnb superhosts. So we not only talk the talk, but we walk the walk, but we still consistently surround ourselves with the best in the space to get us further ahead. And this is what we've put together, an Airbnb Millionaire Blueprint, where you don't just hear it from me, you hear it, and it's an aggregate list. It's 21 pillars from short-term rental operators worldwide who've implemented this and it's worked. And these are the exact same way we've been able to get results and get the same results from implementing these insights that I've pulled from multiple faces, right? Some people have tons of arbitrage units like TJ Tijani. Some like Bill Faith have just a few. Some like Michael Shogun has boutique hotels. They've scaled, and whether you have 1 unit, 10 units, or 100th unit, or about to get into your first unit, you're going to want to have this blueprint that you can utilize universally wherever you are in the world. We want to get this. I put together, we took a lot of time to put this together this year after all that we've been implementing in our lab, for you to have a guide that you can leverage, right? That you can use and implement. We've also given and tagged everybody that we've featured in and giving them credit, so you know where the source is coming from. And you can check out their Instagram. You can see that they're vetted individuals that we not only work with and trust but learn from, because sometimes you get a lot of different information, and I want to make sure I give that credit where you can find out that person. And we've also, if they've been on our show, we've also linked the episode within this free blueprint. It's the Airbnb Millionaire Blueprint. Want to make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com. Once you get there, you'll see the pop-up that says I have something for you. Just scroll down, enter your name, enter your email, and we'll get it right sent to you. Don't want to sleep on this. We've been putting this together for quite some time, and I know that it will serve you regardless of where you are in your journey, to have an Airbnb Millionaire Blueprint that has been collectively vetted and has been sourced from operators who are operating at a high scale. Experiment Nation, you are welcome. Make sure to go to experimentrealestate.com and get your Airbnb Millionaire Blueprint, so that you can also scale to the level of experiment that these practitioners like ourselves have done just for you, Experiment Nation. We'll see you on the other side.
I love that. So why don't you give us a little teaser real quick, because I want to hear a little bit while we're on the air. There's so much data out there now, right? There's AirDNA, there's a bunch of different things. What are some key metrics that you're looking at for you to be like, this is going to be a profitable property, right? I'm assuming it's beyond the average daily rate. Like it's good. Why don't you give us a few teasers for those of us to get the book? We're definitely going to be tapping in, but what are some things that maybe are outside of what we typically hear when it comes to analyzing deals?
You've just touched on a giant point that you could do your own a whole different podcast on it. But chapter 2.5, I have a note about data and data tools. Mm. And in summary, it's a whole chapter, but in summary, you cannot rely on any number. And that's true for things you see on Twitter, news stations. Whenever they're giving you charts and numbers and data, it's all fake, because, as an accountant, especially, I know this, you can mend things how you want. And so to analyze a property truly, you need to know what's behind that number, that revenue number. Well, what's behind it? They don't have a direct access. They're not asking the owner and auditing their statements. So they're getting that number. They're making some assumptions. What are those assumptions? It takes a lot of work, but it's useful. Now, to directly answer your question, the things that I pay attention are the soft stats. How far, putting myself in my guest's shoes, what does my guest want? Who is paying the most for that? Okay, I decided on a 4-bedroom penthouse luxury experience, twice my budget, but I realized that was underserved. There was a demand for that, but the supply was low. Now, what else is the distance between this popular park? It's far enough away where I'm not hearing the music, but it's close enough where you can walk. There's a river in front of my building that creates some nice noise throughout the day. The guests might not even notice that, but I think that's something that's important. The design of the home. the way it feels when you go inside the home. How does it generally feel? Would someone want to spend here? Would they come back? I just put together in that book. I have one of the things I have is my process. I put together a Google spreadsheet with my information, and one of those columns is this. What are the special features of this place? Does it have a sauna? Does it have a one side of the wall that is like for shoes, which is all things that I looked at? Does it have a rooftop hot tub with a good view? Is it on how big is the incline of the street? And that matters if they're walking, which they are in my market. They're walking. So if the incline is 20% as opposed to 0%, well, who's your guest as well? If they're like, Americans, they're probably not interested in walking 15 minutes up a 20% grade. If they're triathletes, then maybe it's not a big deal. So I knew very well my market. I knew my future guests. I knew where they wanted to be exactly. And all of those kind of soft stats together helped me make the purchase. There's other things I did with the purchase that I know my guests want that keep them coming back and keep the place generally interested or occupied. So those are two different things, finding the place and then also servicing hospitality.
I like how you went back to the root core of why we're in this business in the first place, right? Hospitality should be how you make your decisions based on the soft stats, which I've never heard that before. I like that. Soft stats. That's what you said, right?
I just made that up right now too.
I love it. Tell me about, because your book before this was Optimize Your Airbnb. So that you told me, give us a little teaser. And again, we're going to have to check out chapter 2.5 of Profitable Properties. But we just held up, if you're listening to this, is Optimize Your Airbnb. It's your Airbnb, right? Or is it mine?
Yeah, that was a marketing error, I guess, on my part. I named it because Optimize Your Airbnb, you're reading it, you're going to optimize your own Airbnb. That's the book.
Yeah.
Optimize My Airbnb is the website. So hey, you optimize my Airbnb. I'm going to pay you. You optimize my Airbnb. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to optimize, so anyways.
That's interesting. Well, I wasn't even going there. I just want to make sure it was the right thing because I don't know. I've said both. So, but that's Optimize Your BNB. Is the book and that you just held up there for those of us who are just
no, that's Optimize Your BNB.
Is it really? Did I say? Yeah. I said Optimize Your BNB. I said that.
Did you? I heard Optimize Mine. It's all crisscrossed on the interwebs. You'll see
Optimize
my website.
Your BNB is the book.
That's
confused.
That's the first book.
Yeah, but so that's the first book, and kind of it's a good transition because you talked about how to get profitable properties, and there's more in that book. But on your first book, it was about optimizing. What tips can you give us? And I know this can be a loaded question, but when it comes to optimizing your BNB, what do you like to do? Right? It's true. It's good, man. You got some good branding, I'm telling you. But no, what do you like to do, or what is your go-to? And again, I'm speaking from as a practitioner myself. Right? I'll give you one thing that I loved right now for myself is we just launched property and we did accent walls. Love that. Accent walls makes everything pop behind the headboard. It's pops right when you look into the pictures. But again, I got the GOAT here in the lab with me, so I want to hear, if I'm still on the right path, or if there's something that you focus on when you've analyzed and you've done the research and you find that profitable properties with the soft stats taken into account. Now, once you have it, what are the go-to, let's say, 3 things that you like to do?
No, there's no. Sorry to cut you off there, but there's no go-to thing. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And you're going to agree with me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I have and just to be clear, Optimize Your BNB, the first book, that was focused specifically on Airbnb and for existing, intermediate, and advanced Airbnb hosts. The things I talk about are only relevant to Airbnb. That the new book is more wide open, much more broad. The new book is going to be like 400 pages. It's like the encyclopedia. But I have in the new book, I have a section called terminology. And over the years, I've created a lot of terminology that is just concepts that you should be aware of. And one of them is just 1 in 100, I call it. in short-term rentals, you're going to have one of 100 decisions, and none of these decisions are going to make you successful. But the hosts who have the most of those decisions are going to be the most successful. So your accent walls are not making you successful, but it's a decision that it sounds like you made correctly, and it's one of the 100. So keep that in mind when you're doing things, you know. And I think the biggest value that readers, hosts will get from me is my perspective as a guest, which is very unique to experts in the industry, is that I live in Airbnb. So I have that experience, but I also, in this book, I try and break it down. There's a chapter or 2 chapters where I take you on the process a guest goes through on Airbnb to actually book your space. How do they search? There's 3 pages on Airbnb, P3, P2, and P1, which is, P1 is the main page where you type in the location, the number of guests. And then I talk about how can you optimize? Where are your optimization opportunities on each of these pages? P3, there are none. If people don't go to Airbnb to find the destination, they already have it in mind. So they're going to type your destination in or not. And then P2, where they have the map on the right side. And then P3. So what is the guest looking for in P2? What are they looking for in P3? How can you, get them to make the reservation? And the book is about how you are making, I'm trying to help you with 100 of those 100 decisions. You don't have to implement them all, but the more you can is better. So, and that touches every aspect. The most common ones are the title, the photos, and the text. How can we differentiate ourselves from our competition and encourage the guest to make that booking? A lot of listings look the same, and a lot of some listings pay for professional copywriters to write text for their listing, but that doesn't work for Airbnb. A traditional marketer's mindset doesn't work for Airbnb. What they would do is they would take the guest on a journey. Here's your pain point. Here's what you've tried, and here's what I'm offering. No, that doesn't work on Airbnb. Just straight up bullet point. The guest has 1 million listings. They all look the same. I'm paying $150. What am I getting? Welcome to, Birds Ridge Ranch, a quiet, 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom ranch in this city. They already know what city they're in. They already know that it's 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and the name doesn't really matter to them at all. So you're wasting the most important real estate with nonsense. So I take that out mostly. I have something called the blurb, which is, up to 1 sentence, 10, 12 words that can summarize a lot of your experience, can summarize the experience, which sometimes I use. But otherwise, we just do bullet points and the most important bullet point, and a bullet point that ideally they can't see from the photos. Because when they're reading the text, that's the last thing they're doing. Text is the most important section of your listing, because if the guest is reading the text, they're just asking you to convince them. They just need a little bit more, just a little bit more to make that booking. You're down to 2 or 3 listings probably.
Wow.
And so, if you have a hot tub in your cover photo, you don't want to say hot tub as the first bullet point. You want to say heated floors or indoor sound system or whatever. Something that you can't really see from the photos is ideal for the text, or something you want to highlight. And then same thing with the title, which is now de-emphasized on P2 and emphasized on P3. So that's basically your summary text, your new summary text. So that's the most important text. And so again, we don't want to say lovely, spacious, 4-bedroom, boutique, whatever, chic, suite in uptown New York. That's like the worst title you could have ever done. It doesn't help the guest at all. And in fact, it negatively hurts you because the guest's eyes are just glazing over. Because it's like, I've seen this title 1 million times. I've seen these bad photos 1 million times. So they're looking for someone to pop.
That's amazing. I that's such great insight on the naming what is not, what you can't see, and then the location. I'm more curious to hear. That's an incredible key takeaway, by the way. Like that was really well put together. I'm more curious on that topic for the titles. Are you saying that because the guest is already knows where they're looking, that you should even include the location or even the bedroom count? Like, so what would be an example of like a title that you, from your experience, is like a good key takeaway that people can kind of digest? What should I include in my title, in short?
You should include in your title, you should not include your location, with a few exceptions, but let's not focus on the exceptions. What you should include on the title is your most sought after amenities. It's the first thing that the guest is going to see when they click onto your listing page, which is P3. So whatever that might be, I mean, I have, for my place, I provide daily cleaning and daily breakfast. So I put that up there. You can't see that in the photos, daily cleaning and daily breakfast. I say flexible visitor policy. There's, typically groups of guys coming to party. It's a nice house. They want to invite people back. And this is kind of a common question. I got this question, do you allow visitors, this and that? Do you charge extra? A lot of hotels charge extra. So I was like, okay, no fee, one visitor for free. Whatever else you have. Maybe you're in a big city. It doesn't have to be glamorous. It doesn't have to be, a rooftop hot tub with a 360-degree view. If you're in a city with, parking is sought after, putting, garage parking or something like that in the first, that might be the most interesting or sought after thing that someone's looking. Maybe they have a family and they're just like, okay, I'm looking for parking. A lot of people don't use the filters. A lot of guests don't use the filters, especially the niche filters, because a lot of hosts don't select them.
Oh, yeah, that's good in itself. That you brought us full circle on this one. I gotta do a rapid fire round though, because I got you here. Biggest what I gotta ask you, favorite amenity that you like when you travel?
A soft and firm pillow.
Like a combination of the two?
Yeah, at least two pillows, and one should be soft, one should be firm.
So good. Biggest no in a property?
Like a physical thing, a biggest no.
It doesn't have to be physical. It could be even just like you see online. It could be inside. Biggest no that comes to you first. The thing that leads to the most negative reviews is the biggest no is not making the guest feel heard. If the guest comes at you and says, I broke this or I broke that, or there's this repair that needs to be happened, whether or not you think it's important, just tell the guest, thank you for that. I'm looking into that. I'm talking to my cleaner about that tomorrow, this or that. Make the guest feel heard. You do want feedback from them. That's a really good answer, man. Biggest oversight most hosts have?
Not leveraging the tools that are available to them, many of which are even free. The thing that came to mind is a digital guidebook. Everyone should have this. Guess how many times I've received a digital guidebook as a guest after staying in probably, 200 different Airbnbs.
You want me to guess?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. That bad? I'll say 50.
0.
No.
I have never received a digital guidebook at any property. I have received a long ass, introduction message a month before I arrive with checkout information and all this stuff that I lose track of by the time I check in. But I have never once received, and there also have been manuals in the house, but I have never received a digital house manual one time. I can't believe it. And I've stayed with Airbnb Plus. I've stayed with all different variety of types of hosts.
Damn, that makes me feel good. We just got a comment on actually, like literally today. There was that was really helpful. Thank you. That's wild, man. They need super duper hosts out here.
You know what? They should. There, as a guest, I see a lot of things like how Airbnb could improve the platform. And let me tell you, there are a lot. One of the things that Airbnb should let is if you're a super guest, if you're a guest for a lot of places, they should give you an extra star. This host was was better than average, because 5 stars is, everyone gives 5 stars unless it was really shitty. All right, if you've been a guest for over 500 nights or 1,000 nights, you really know your stuff. So we're going to give you a 6-star. Like, you can use it once a year or something. But like, if there's a host that went above and beyond, we'll give you a 6-star.
Dude, you're 100% right. Literally getting out of the Uber the other day, my wife was like, "You better give him a 4," because this guy was just pumping. And we were nauseous. And I'm like, I can't do it because I'm in the hospitality. I'm just like, oh man, I just gave him a 5. But that 5 is not worth the same as the other 5s of people who have just been like, great conversation. They get out of the car, grab your bags. So you're 100% right, man. Like,
this is a good, I want to connect this directly with Airbnb. With what you're describing. So here's how I think about it. We've all had this experience. We call an Uber and they get lost coming to you or this and that. You're otherwise frustrated before they get there. And they stop for gas, or they're talking to their mom, and they don't move for 5 minutes. You're frustrated. Like, this is a 2-star. I hate this Uber driver. And then you get in the car and you start chatting with them, or like, oh, they're nice. They're nice. Surprise, surprise. They're nice people. And then you get out and you're like, well, now I feel bad if I give them anything less than a 5. Why is that? Because you met them. It's easier to give a screen a 2-star, but you met them. So now, you're not so interested in giving a 2-star. So if you have a problem with guest, go and check them out. Check them out in person. Say, I apologize for that. Oh, they seen you. Oh, okay. This person, digital screens, they make us angry, and we blow up a lot easier on digital screens. Go up in person. That's how I've avoided a few negative reviews, because I have a concierge and a cleaner who's connected with them. Me less so. Yeah. But there has been a couple of times where I go and I apologize for something that happened.
That's so interesting. The item that is missing the most when you've gone in to checked into your gazillion Airbnbs you've stayed at. That is like a no-brainer. You're like, come on, dude. Really?
Yeah.
This again?
Yeah. It's somewhat subjective, because it's like, well, what type, what quality? So there's a lot of times there's like shampoo missing, but it's like, that's a subjective. But what's not subjective is, if you have a kitchen, you should be providing basic kitchen amenities, which is all of these things are missing. I got to say them all, because it's like, why are they missing? Cutting board. And if you don't have a cutting board, where is the guest going to cut? Where you don't want them to. Provide a cutting board, Yeah. Scissors. If you don't have scissors, how the guest is going to open stuff? They're going to open it with a knife and chop off their finger, which becomes your problem. A strainer. If they're cooking something and they need to empty scalding hot water out, how are they going to do it? They have to do something like this. They're going to burn themselves. That would become your problem. So it's just increasing your risk. Sharp knives. You have to sharpen your knives every now and then. If you have an Airbnb for more than a year and you have never sharpened your knives, you probably need to sharpen your knives. All of these things and more in the kitchen is a disgrace on the short-term rental industry, the hosts.
He said a disgrace. I love that. Damn, man. Listen, man, this has been fun, man. We actually got 2 podcasts out of this, because we were talking like 30 minutes before this just about life. And just for context, what do you think is, you strike me as, I love the lifestyle you live. It seems very lean, peace of mind. Where are you currently at now for folks who are listening? Are you looking to buy more? Are you looking to just continue to live in Airbnbs? What do you think is next for you, man?
I'll be this book. With the release of this book, I'm also releasing my course. I'm going to offer your viewers 50% discount code, good for 3 months. Nice. And in that course, one of the things I'm going to do is I plan to buy property here in the USA, which is where I'm currently at. I'm usually not here. And I'm going to take the members on my journey. I'm going to be exploring the entire USA, and I'm going to figure out what the most profitable areas are. And then we'll go further when I figure out where I'm going to buy. But that'll be coming later on this year. And I am typically traveling, and I do travel light. I'm a minimalist.
Oh,
yeah. and I travel typically out. You could find me in Latin America and Asia. I used to actually like to go to the Eastern Europe, Russia and Ukraine being two countries that I enjoyed going to, unfortunately. So hopefully that resolves itself and I can go back there. But these days, yeah, Asia and Latin America. Not a big fan of Europe.
Can you define, and I think this might tie into what you just said, can you just define for us who are not familiar with what a minimalist is and what your lifetime, maybe like your day-to-day or maybe monthly expenses are, just so we have some context? Because I don't think I know, but like I have an idea. Like I have a friend who's a minimalist, but I don't define it to the world so we understand what that is. What's a minimalist?
There's various definitions of minimalist, but for me, a minimalist is someone we're talking about. For me, it goes through my lifestyle as well. But typically when you take minimalist, you're talking about physical things. For physical things, you only have the things that you are using frequently. That's what a minimalist is. I only have things I use frequently, and that there's some sacrifices that need to be made. I love playing basketball. When I'm traveling, I don't play basketball so much because I don't have basketball shoes and I don't want to, roll my ankle.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about the shoe part. So you don't even like pack like a pair.
I've got workout shoes, which are like Chuck Taylors, not the best for basketball. I could play in them. They're like low top Chuck Taylors. I've got one like all around shoe, which is like, a leather shoe. I could wear it. And then I have flip flops.
That's dope. That's for like beach vibes / shower / whatever.
Yeah.
Walking around the house.
Wait,
yeah. So, and then like, what does your overhead look like when you're like so lean? Like, what is that? What do you spend per? That's the one thing I want to talk about too, like the life hacking. What is like a monthly expense for you?
You can, did I write this blog post? I have a personal website where I just write for fun. Nice. And one of the things no, I didn't write this one. One of the blog posts is how I make money, like where's all my revenue sources coming from. One blog post I wanted to say, what do I spend money on? Maybe I did write that. I forget. But my costs are Airbnb. Mm-hmm. It depends how much I want to spend and where I'm at, but it could be $1,000 to $2,500. You've got a flight,
month, right? A month.
Yeah, a month. Yeah. The next biggest thing is going to be flight because once a month I travel. I change destinations typically once a month. So depending on where I'm going, sometimes it's cheap, but if I'm going, from Asia to Latin America, that could be expensive. Then we have, we already mentioned a bunch of bills that I avoid while doing Airbnb, but I do pay for things like gym membership, cell phone bill, medical insurance. I'm trying to think of like the most expensive to the least expensive. And then of course, groceries, entertainment, coffees. I think that's it. I don't have, car insurance payment. I don't have gasoline. I don't have electricity. I don't have gas. I don't have water. I don't have trash. I don't have lights. If I already said that.
Oh, and you paid that house in is it Medellin?
Yeah, Medellin, paid that off. So there's no cost.
How much you pay for that, by the way? The all cash one?
That was $500K.
Dude, that's so you have no mortgage. You have and you're Airbnb-ing it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that is anti-minimalist. Because what do I have to do now? Because I'm not just a physical minimalist, but I'm a life minimalist. Everything I think about in terms of, I just wrote an outline for a future blog I'll do on my personal website, but like things are way too complicated and change happens way too often and just change for change. We're changing the tax laws every other year. We're changing all these different rules, banking rules, car registration rules, flying airport rules. Sometimes I got to show a yellow fever vaccine. Sometimes I got to show COVID. Sometimes I got to show random ass stuff. Sometimes I have to whatever. So I try and decomplicate my life as much as possible. That's why we talked about I don't have notifications on my cell phone. For me, that's being a minimalist. I don't need notifications. I don't need notifications. Nothing is urgent. I just told you my exceptions, earlier. So having a house is anti-minimalist, because now what do I have to do? I have to now, interact with the other building owners every now and then. I have to pay my property tax and my insurance. I have to pay the HOA fee. I do have bills now with all of this stuff. Now I have my cleaner do that. And by the way, I should mention this before we go. Cleaner is your property manager. They're such an under-leveraged resource. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. I'm glad you're shaking your head.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to me. It's made sense for me for a long time. Your cleaner is your property manager. They're there anyways. And so she does a lot for me. She pays all my bills. She handles maintenance. If there's some kind of an emergency thing with the guest, she does that. She attended my yearly HOA meeting this last week. So that decomplicates it a little bit, but she's still reaching out to me for a bunch of stuff. So, it's good. It's good ROI. It's good income. And I figured out a way to make it as minimalist as possible. But owning a house, man, is kind of a headache.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if things are going to go wrong. It's when they do, right?
Yeah. So you might as well be turning it into an asset and making a good ROI, right?
Yeah. Dude, man, this was fun, man. I really appreciate you coming in here. I want to make sure that you guys definitely get your copy of Profitable Properties, the Airbnb Insider Secrets. Man, that's really cool. I'm excited to get my hands on it. And yeah, man, you guys got to tap in because you've been doing this for a minute. And to anybody who listened to this and got like wow, that gave me a lot of peace of mind. I know that you got a few educational platforms for them too, where they can even, again, depending whether it's your courses or working directly with you. I think there's an opportunity there too to learn from someone who's done it, which that's why anybody that I bring through the lab, they're qualified, they're lab verified, as I call it. And there's no other more verified person here with us who's, again, been on the side of as an employee at Airbnb, stays at Airbnbs, written books about it, and has helped multiple individuals around the world about it. So, Daniel, thank you for coming into the lab, man.
Gotten sued by Airbnb too. Almost.
Oh, shoot. And fired by Airbnb. Like, come on, man. Hired, fired.
Rehired.
Got paid, rehired. Yeah, his top I like the top commission thing that you got from them. That's a cool hack. You know what they stopped? Just a fun fact. Because I have a community and I used to share my Airbnb profile, but I was like, why am I not getting these payouts? I've shared it so many times. Do you know that they put in there, if you connect your if someone connects to a PMS, it disqualifies you from getting your payout. Can you believe that?
What do you mean payout? Like referral payout?
Yeah. Huh. True story. Because I reached out to them. I called them like, yo, what's going on, man? I'm sending you people. They're like, oh yeah, well, if there's like a fine print, I don't know when they put it in there. But yeah, if someone uses, which I'm like, I don't understand. The PMS is there to make them like, it doesn't take away from anything. Like, why should I get penalized?
Right.
Crazy. Made a video on this.
That is crazy. Yeah, that is very crazy. That's strange and
wild. Because I'm like, why am I not getting paid? What's going on here?
Yeah. I used to get that kind of makes sense, actually. I thought they did away with the program because I got my name all over the place and I've got the YouTube and everything. And I used to get I felt like, $1,000 a month because I think it's $100 a host of credit. I used to have a bunch of credit and then all of a sudden it just stopped. And I thought I was pretty sure they did away with the program. No. Nowadays, though, I'm seeing some more every now and then I'm getting.
Oh, there are. You can get a referral link. It's just, they'll have, I don't know if they're doing it. Like if you have anything, like I think it might be even like a Price Labs. I use Price Labs, like any software that's going to tap into Airbnb will disqualify you from getting that referral. And I know this because I told my students, I'm like, get Guesty for host. Shout out to Guesty. Get Price Labs. Get all those tools. And I didn't know it was to my. Again, I'm not going to tell them not to do something well just so I can get a cut. But I was just like, hey, like use my link. You're up and running. You're killing it. Where's my payout? So I called Airbnb, and this is what they told me. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh man, that's some bullshit.
I thought you were going to say if you have connected your Facebook to Airbnb, any of your connections on Facebook won't count as your referral.
No. If you dare to just plug in to guess, yeah, it's even worse because who's not using a smart pricing tool now? So I don't know, but I don't know how.
You'd be surprised.
It's true, actually. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
I can't believe the guest book thing. I'm over here. I'm feeling like a super duper host out here. I cannot believe that. Wow, blown.
I also can't believe that. Yeah.
But you know what? We can believe that we had Danny here, Rusteen in the lab with us, and I'm super stoked. This is a real thing. It is now official history. I cannot wait to see your success with your book and your next ventures. We'll be keeping tabs on you. I will be keeping tabs on Optimize My Airbnb, the handle. That's where I keep tabs on Instagram, so you guys check him out. And just like that, we are out.
Experiment Nation, podcasting has changed the way we operate as real estate investors ourselves, and it can do the same for you. Podcasting has been the source of the masterclasses that we get thanks to the world-class real estate investors and practitioners and specialists that come into the lab from all realms, from short-term rentals to mid-term rentals to real estate syndications to even software as a service. Owners, founders, entrepreneurs have helped enrich our experiments by giving us the education, helping us build a network, and lastly, and most importantly, a brand association to open up multiple doors for our respective businesses. If you understand the power that podcasting can have and you know that you need one for your brand, please, you can rely on our team. Investedtalent.com is my team and the team that helps this podcast, the Real Estate Experiment, become the fruition each and every single week to educate my community, build relationships on the air, and continue to build our brand. If you know that you need to do the same for your brand and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, maybe because you don't know how, our company, investedtalent.com, does the end-to-end from the time that you record, from the time that it is published, to even repurposing content on multiple social media platforms. That's what my team can do for you. Simply go to investedtalent.com and book a discovery call to see how my team can help you launch your podcast.